Millionaire's daughter in danger. How a cleaning lady saved her life at midnight. It was a night like no other in the glitzy world of Maplewood Manor, where secrets whispered through the opulent halls and shadows danced in the corners. The clock struck midnight, its harsh chime echoing like a warning shot across the moonlit estate. Outside, a storm raged, a tempest that matched the chaos brewing inside. Torrential rain hammered against the stained glass windows, and the wind howled, twisting and turning as though it were alive. But it wasn't nature that stirred the air with tension. It was the fate of a young woman, Emerald Green, the heiress to a booming fortune, and she was in grave danger. Emerald was meant to be celebrating her engagement. The elegant ballroom was adorned with crystal chandeliers that shimmered like stars. Guests mingled, laughter ringing out like sweet music, but behind her radiant smile, panic bubbled beneath the surface. A mysterious figure, a shadow slipping through the developed wealth of her father's empire, had been stalking her for days, leaving behind a trail of eerie messages and strange occurrences. With every passing second, she could feel the threat closing in, her heart racing like a wild animal trapped. But salvation came from the most unexpected place. Marisol, the cleaning lady, was often overlooked as she polished the grand floors or emptied the waste bins brimming with champagne bottles. Her hands were worn, her hair pulled tight in a bun, but her eyes burned with a fierce intensity. Tonight, she felt the oppressive weight of fear that draped over Emerald like a shroud. Marisol understood the luxury of wealth, a world that had never truly welcomed her. Yet in her soul, she carried a fire, an unwavering sense of justice that demanded action. The tension climbed as Marisol followed the faint sound of hurried footsteps echoing down the hall, a conversation she shouldn't have overheard. She asked the key. A voice hissed, sharp and threatening. "We can't let her escape." The words slashed through the air, causing Marisol's breath to catch in her throat. "Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Marisol darted through the shadows, just out of sight. Contemplating her next move, Emerald's light footsteps mingled with the harsh realities of a threat looming in her world. The girl, still blissfully unaware, twirling her engagement ring, a spark of innocence in a world ready to shatter. As Marisol crept closer, her heart drummed in her chest, a warning of what was to come. Time was running out, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Would Marisol be the one to save her? Or were they both stepping into an inescapable trap? The night held its breath, a question lingering in the enveloping darkness. Marisol took a deep breath. She quietly pressed her back against the wall, heart pounding as she tried to collect her thoughts. The tapestries that lined the grand hall whispered secrets, but only the storm outside dared to listen. She needed to act fast. Emerald stood alone by the window, her reflection a flickering shadow under the storm's merciless glow. The elegance of her gown contrasted sharply with the dread in her eyes, mirroring the distant crack of thunder. Just then, a flash of light illuminated a figure lurking beneath the gallery, a tall silhouette that sent chills racing down Marisol's spine. Was it him? The stalker? The realization struck like a lightning bolt, igniting flames of urgency in her veins. She had to warn Emerald she couldn't let her walk into danger. Marisol's mind raced, formulating a plan. "Emerald," she whispered urgently, her voice barely above the wind's wail. The heiress, still lost in her thoughts, didn't hear, and for a heartbeat, Marisol grappled with her next move. She couldn't afford to be noticed yet. Not yet. With stealthy movements, Marisol approached the edge of the ballroom, staying out of sight but close enough to keep watch. Her instincts screamed at her to intervene, yet she felt that pulling urge to understand the enemy. The shadows grew longer as the figure began pacing, his movements deliberate and menacing. Marisol's eyes widened as she caught snippets of conversation gleaned from the tempest outside. "She has what we need, find her before it's too late," each word wound tighter around her throat, suffocating her hopes. The air thickened with danger, and she made her decision. A sudden crash echoed through the hall, a server's tray spilling its contents across the floor. Emerald startled, her serene mask slipping for just a moment. Seeing her vulnerability ignited Marisol's fierce determination. If they needed to be distracted, she'd give them a reason. Marisol reached into her apron, fingers curling around a small but heavy silver serving spoon. In one swift motion, she aimed it carefully and threw it against the wall, just far enough to draw their attention. The clang of metal bounced off the marbled floors, the sound ripping through the ear-splitting silence. As expected, the stalker turned, his gaze sweeping toward the disturbance. In that instant, Marisol darted forward, her heart racing as she grabbed Emerald's arm. "Run!" she hissed, adrenaline surging. Every second stretched as if it were an eternity. Emerald looked shocked. "What, no time? They're coming. Trust me." Marisol pulled her away from the window just as the figure caught sight. Fear flickered across Emerald's face, but there was no time for questions or resistance. With urgency, Marisol led her through the thrumming crowd, avoiding the wide eyes of guests still enjoying the night. Each step felt like a gamble, leaving behind laughter and joy as they sprinted towards a shadowy corridor that led to the servants' quarters. The high-paced heartbeat pounding in Marisol's ears urged her to run faster, deeper into the maze of the manor. But could she shake off the lurking threat? "What do you know?" Emerald gasped, confused but captivated, desperation lacing her tone. "More than you realize," Marisol replied, glancing back to see if the shadow had followed. The adrenaline coursed through her as they skidded to a halt. "This is no ordinary night, and you're not just engaging with a man, Emerald. We're in the middle of something much darker." With her breath hitching, Marisol turned to face the fear she tried so hard to shield them from. But just as they began to catch their breath, a chilling voice echoed from behind them, sending shockwaves down Marisol's spine. "Where do you think you're going?" Emerald's eyes widened as she took a step back. The danger had just come too close, and there was no escape route left. Just as Marisol braced for the confrontation, the lights flickered ominously, plunging them into darkness. The storm outside raged harder, mirroring the turmoil drawing closer. In that moment, Marisol's heart raced not just with fear, but with the weight of a choice yet to be made. Would they confront the darkness together, or would it consume them both? The darkness swallowed them, an icy void where the echoes of their fears bounced around like trapped birds. Marisol's heart pounded louder than the thunder outside, each beat a clock ticking down to something inevitable. "Marisol," Emerald's voice trembled, piercing the darkness like a fragile thread. "What do we do?" "Stay close, we need to find a way out." Marisol's voice was steady, but inside, panic twisted and curled like smoke. She fumbled for Emerald's hand, her fingers trembling. The darkness was thick, as if it had a weight, a texture, something alive that pressed against them. A sudden crash reverberated from behind, sending shards of dread slicing through Marisol's resolve. It was getting closer. "Did you hear that?" Emerald whispered, her breath hitching. "I did. Just keep moving." Marisol tugged her forward, each step uncertain in the oppressive dark. A gust of wind whistled through the corridor, causing the hairs on her neck to stand on end. They stumbled through the pantry, shadows darting around them like lingering memories. Cans and bottles clattered as they passed, creating a chaotic symphony of their fear. Emerald whispered, "What are we even up against?" Marisol hesitated. I think he might be after something that belongs to you." Would telling her the truth help or encumber them? She chose silence. Just then, a bright flash ricocheted through the corridor. Marisol squinted, her eyes adjusting enough to catch a glimpse of the stalker, his face half illuminated by the lightning outside. For a brief moment, she saw his eyes, cold, relentless, filled with dark ambition. He was on their trail hunting them. "Marisol," Emerald gasped, her voice barely a croak. He saw us. Marisol's mind whirred into overdrive. They had to find a refuge, some place that offered a chance of safety. This way, she hissed, dragging Emerald around the corner towards a back staircase. As they ascended, the staircase groaned beneath their weight, revealing their position with every creak. Marisol's mind churned with options. Each step taken was a step deeper into their perilous reality. When they reached the top, the door to a dimly lit attic loomed before them, a sanctuary or a trap. "Do you think we're safe here?" Emerald whispered, eyes wide with uncertainty. "Just for a moment, we need to regroup." Marisol pushed open the door, the rusty hinges protesting as they entered the dark space. Dust motes danced in the air like fleeting spirits. The room felt alive, the kind of darkness that suffocated hope, and still, it was a shelter against the danger stalking them below. Emerald began to tremble. "What if he finds us?" Marisol pulled her close, their breaths mingling in the cooling air. "We can't think like that. We need to focus on what comes next. We have to be ready." Silence enveloped them, heavy and thick, but for a heartbeat, Marisol sensed a sliver of comfort in the attic's shadows. Just as that comfort began to settle, movement below shattered the peace. Footsteps slow, deliberate, echoed up the staircase. "Where are you?" The shadowed voice called from below, its malice crawling along Marisol's skin. Emerald's grip tightened. Fear washed over her as she peered through a small window, where rain battered the glass. The world outside was chaos, but at least it was separate from their nightmare. The footsteps drew closer. Marisol exchanged a glance with Emerald. Their eyes spoke volumes, a shared understanding that if they were to survive, they would have to face this together. "Remember, whatever happens, we don't let him take you," Marisol murmured, summoning every ounce of courage she had. Just then, the attic door rattled, locked in a deadly embrace with the past. With a fierce determination, Marisol reached for a broken chair leg lying in the corner. She was ready. They would fight, but could they turn the tide in their favor, or would the shadows consume them both? Before she could fully prepare, an expectant voice slithered from behind the door, dripping with malice. "You can't hide forever." The air in the attic thickened, and time stretched. Unnaturally, with every second that passed, the walls pressed in tighter, and Marisol felt the weight of a decision lurking just out of reach. Would they hide, or would they strike? The tension coiled like a spring, and Marisol took a step towards the door. This battle was just beginning, and unexpected truths awaited them both. But would they be enough to save Emerald from the storm closing in? The rattling at the door stopped abruptly, replaced by a chilling silence that crawled under Marisol's skin. She tightened her grip around the chair leg, can feel the coldness seeping into her palms, a stark reminder of their dire situation. Beside her, Emerald trembled, her face pale, eyes wide and searching. "Marisol, what if he?" Emerald managed, but the question hung between them, thickening the air around them. "Should we need to listen?" Marisol whispered, letting the tension in her muscles coil tighter. Each creak and groan from the house echoed like a countdown, reminding her they weren't safe here, not yet. But just as she thought relief might settle in, a loud crash resonated from below. The door splintered as they heard footsteps again. Quicker this time, a frantic pursuit. "You think you can escape?" The voice taunted, a smooth coldness wrapping itself around every word. "Now," Marisol urged, adrenaline surging through her veins. She grabbed Emerald's hand and pulled her towards the far wall of the attic, the shadows curling around them like sinister tendrils. They pressed themselves against the wall, hearts racing, breaths shallow. The footsteps on the staircase grew louder, thunderous in the stillness of the attic. Marisol glanced at the small window, her mind racing. "We need to make a break for it. When he opens that door, we go." Emerald swallowed hard, shaking her head slightly. "What if he catches us?" "Then we fight," Marisol replied, trying to mask the quaver in her own voice. "I won't let him take you." With a nod, Emerald seemed to gather her courage, a spark igniting somewhere behind those eyes. At that moment, the door burst open, and the figure loomed in the doorway, dark and menacing against the dim light of the hall. Marisol's breath hitched, a rush of fear flooding her senses. The man stood there, eyes alight with malicious excitement, a predatory grin stretching his lips. "Found you," he sneered, stepping inside, his shadow swallowing the attic. "Run!" Marisol screamed, pushing Emerald toward the window. She dove after her, the shattered glass glistening like dangerous stars. But before they could leap into the chaos outside, the man lunged forward, snatching a fistful of Marisol's hair that a sharp pain shot through her scalp, and she grunted as he yanked her back, his breathing ragged with lust for power. "You think you can escape? I'll enjoy breaking you," he spat, venom dripping from each word. Emerald turned, desperation igniting in her eyes. "No, let her go." Marisol seized the moment, twisting her body sharply. "Let me go," she shouted, planting her foot on the man's chest. He staggered back, momentarily surprised. Emerald wrapped her fingers around the broken chair leg that had fallen in the chaos. With a fierce scream fueled by adrenaline, she swung it with all her strength, connecting with the man's side. He howled, a sound of pure rage and disbelief, staggering and dropping Marisol. Without waiting a beat, Marisol grabbed Emerald's hand again. Now, they bolted for the window, fear propelling them forward. The rain soaked them instantly as they launched themselves into the night, feeling the weight of freedom and danger merge in one heartbeat. But then, a shout echoed behind them, cutting through the storm. "You can't run forever." Heart in her throat, Marisol and Emerald ran across the yard, slipping through puddles and mud, adrenaline firing every nerve in their bodies. As they crossed the threshold of the gate, fear surged anew. It was only a matter of time before the predator would regroup. They couldn't stop, couldn't look back. The shadows were relentless, and no sanctuary awaited them beyond the storm. Just as they made it to the edge of the property, a flicker of light caught Marisol's eye, along with a chilling thought. Was that help or another trap? "Marisol, what do we do?" Emerald panted, her strength waning, but fear igniting new resolve within. "We have to find out," Marisol replied, glancing over her shoulder at the night. "We can't outpace the nightmare, so we take the fight to it. Whatever it is, we face it. Together." With that whispered promise of unity, they bolted toward the light. Truth awaited in the storm. But at what cost? Would the light lead them to safety, or deeper into the danger? The rain pounded down, each drop adding urgency to their flight. The light flickering in the distance danced between trees, casting eerie shadows that twisted around them like ghostly arms. Marisol's heart raced as they approached, the warmth of hope battling against the cold grip of fear. "Do you see anyone?" Emerald breathed, her voice barely audible over the storm. Marisol squinted, trying to pierce through the dark curtain of rain. The light wasn't welcoming. It flickered like a warning beacon, uneasy and glitchy. "I don't know," she murmured, stepping cautiously forward, each splatter of water soaking into her shoes, sending chills up her spine. Emerald caught up with her, grasping her arm. "What if don't? We can't think like that." Marisol interrupted, her own doubt creeping in. They had fought so hard to escape one monster. Were they running towards another? Suddenly, a shout rose above the cacophony. "Get away from there!" It was a voice, deeper and rougher than the first, echoing through the trees. Both girls froze, caught in the act of peering through the underbrush. "Maybe it's someone who can help," Emerald whispered, her eyes wide, flickering with a hint of defiance. Marisol bit her lip, wrestling with fear and a desperate hope. They had run so far, but what if it was merely another trap? Without thinking, Marisol took a step forward, her feet moving before her brain could catch up. "We have to find out," she said, urgency fueling her legs. If that voice meant danger, they would face it together. As they approached the light, they could make out the outline of a small cabin, nestled among the trees, glowing with a warm gold. It looked strangely inviting, a stark contrast to the storm that raged around them. "Marisol, wait!" Emerald tugged on her shirt, panic lacing through her tone. Marisol stopped, her pulse thundering in her ears. "What if it's him? What if trust me?" Marisol urged, though her own voice trembled. This could be our only chance. With a quick glance back, she pushed open the rickety door. It creaked ominously, the sound swallowed by the rain. Inside, the air was warm and thick with the smell of wood smoke and something else, something spicy and inviting. "Hello?" Marisol called softly, her voice strained as it echoed in the small space. The flickering light came from an oil lamp sitting on a wooden table, casting shadows that danced across the walls. "Anyone here?" Emerald added, her voice slightly shaky. They exchanged wary glances, the tension thick in the air. "Maybe it's abandoned," Marisol suggested, but a deep instinct nagged at her, a voice that told her they weren't alone. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from the shadows, towering and menacing. Marisol's breath caught. The newcomer stood tall, his silhouette filling the doorway, the grin on his face a stark contrast to the bruises on his skin. "I was wondering when you'd show up. You're not as clever as you think," he drawled, stepping closer, the light illuminating his twisted features. Emerald gasped, her grip tightening around Marisol's arm. "What do we do?" she hissed, her eyes darting to the back of the cabin, where darkness promised a way out. "Stay behind me," Marisol whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. But just then, the man raised a hand, revealing a glint of metal. "I wouldn't run if I were you." Just then, behind him, another shadow flickered. A figure, small yet determined, emerged from the darkness. "You have no idea what you're up against," the newcomer said, a defiance in her voice that sent chills down Marisol's spine. Who was this new threat? And could they possibly turn the tide in their favor when the odds seemed stacked against them? "Let us see who's clever then," the man in the doorway sneered. Marisol's mind raced. There was no going back. It was now or never. But this time the stakes were higher, and it felt like the real battle was just beginning. As fear tangled with hope, she built the resolve to fight back, knowing it was the only way to survive the nightmare. What awaited them in this cabin? Marisol stood paralyzed, trapped between the suffocating presence of the man before her and the unknown ally lurking behind. The flickering lamp cast a harsh glow on his crooked smile, illuminating the desperation creeping into her mind. Could she trust the small figure beside him? Or was it another layer of a trap? "What do you want from us?" Marisol's voice broke the silence, shaky yet laced with a defiant edge. "Such fire, girl," the man purred, tilting his head mockingly. "I want what every man wants. Control. And you two are going to help me achieve it." Every word dripped with menace. Emerald clutched Marisol's arm, her fingers trembling. "We could just leave," she whispered, trying to unleash confusion into the heavy air. "Leave? Oh, you misunderstand," the man hissed. "This cabin is just the beginning. I need your skills." The way he sneered, it felt like he could see straight through them. "Skills?" Marisol scoffed, confusion weaving through her fear. The man threw back his head in laughter, a hollow sound that echoed against the walls. "Your quaint little escapes haven't gone unnoticed. I must admit your tenacity is impressive. But without a little guidance you might find safety quite elusive." "Guidance?" Emerald's voice cracked. "We never help you." Each word dripped with courage, like a fragile shield against an overwhelming threat. His grin twisted. It was a mask hiding something darker. "Oh, but you will. At least if you want to see the dawn. See, I've friends in low places, friends who don't take kindly to losing. And you," he pointed a finger at each girl, "are just the distraction I need." Marisol's pulse quickened. "What friends? Who are you?" The man stepped into the room, the glimmer of metal in his hand catching Marisol's eye. "You'll learn soon enough. I can't give you the whole story now. That would spoil the fun." When the small figure behind him stirred, stepping forward into the light, revealing a girl no older than Marisol, but with eyes that burned with determination. "Don't listen to him," she declared. "He's playing a game you can't afford to lose." "Who are you?" Marisol demanded, looking between the two figures, feeling the weight of the decision she needed to make. "I'm Tessa," the girl said, a spark of hope threading through her words. "And I know how to turn this around." "Why should we trust you?" Emerald challenged, taking a cautious step forward. Tessa fixed her gaze on the man, then back to Marisol and Emerald. Because I've seen what he's capable of. He's not just after you. He's hunting down anyone who stands in his way. The man's laugh echoed again. Oh, sweet child, you're too naive. You think you can defy me? We're not afraid of you. Marisol felt the words leap from her mouth as a quiet resolve settled in her chest. Fear can be a very visceral experience, he shot back, stepping closer, invading their space. Let us hope it doesn't come to that. I do hate cleaning up after a messy outcome. Emerald gasped, inching back towards Marisol, her eyes wide in fear. What's your plan, Tessa? Tessa took a deep breath, her voice steady despite the danger. First, we have to get out of here. There's a way, but we have to work together. Marisol's heart raced, the cacophony of their choices pressing in. They had to trust someone, and perhaps this was their only chance. Could they escape the clutches of the man standing before them? Just then, the cabin's door slammed shut behind them, locking them inside with the storm raging outside. The darkness felt thicker now, and Marisol's stomach dropped. Game on, the man sneered, eyes glinting with malicious thrill. Emerald's breathing quickened, and Marisol felt the weight of an impossible choice hang in the air. Could Tessa guide them to safety? Or had they just walked into a nightmare they couldn't escape? The clock was ticking, and the real battle for their lives was about to begin. Would they uncover Tessa's plan before it was too late? With every heartbeat, the nightmare tightened its grip. The man's laughter faded into the shadows, leaving a heavy silence that felt suffocating. Marisol locked eyes with Tessa, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Okay, what's the plan? Marisol asked, her voice steadier than she felt. She was willing to follow anyone who had a shot at freedom. Emerald shivered beside her, her fear palpable. Tessa moved closer, whispering, we can't let him intimidate us. He thinks we're scared, but we have a chance to turn this around. There's a cellar under the cabin. If we can get there, we might find a way out. Marisol glanced at the man, who was now leaning casually against a wall, twisting the metal object in his hand. And how do we get past him? By using what we know, Tessa said. Determination etched onto her face. He underestimates us. He thinks we're just disposable pawns. Emerald gulped nervously but nodded, the flicker of hope igniting a tiny flame inside her. So what do you need us to do? Tessa focused on Marisol. You're the bold one. You distract him. Keep him talking and I'll lead Emerald to the cellar. We'll regroup as soon as we can. Marisol's heart raced. This was risky. If she engaged with the man at all, it could backfire terribly. Still, the thought of staying there in that room was more terrifying than the idea of facing him head-on. All right, I'll do it. Just don't take too long. As Tessa moved to grab Emerald's hand, Marisol stepped in front of the man, forcing a confident smile. You think you really have us under control? You're not as clever as you think. His eyes narrowed, a glint of interest flickering behind the mask of menace. Oh, what makes you say that? Because if we're just your pawns, you could have chosen any two girls. Why these two? Marisol challenged, her heartbeat loud in her ears. He tilted his head, pretending to reflect on her words. You're all more valuable than you know, he replied, amusement dancing in his gaze. Anyone with a little fire can be useful. Tessa grabbed Emerald's wrist, pulling her toward a narrow door hidden behind stacks of dusty crates. Emerald hesitated, fear etched on her features as she glanced back at Marisol. Go! Marisol yelled, forcing herself to stay calm even as dread turned her stomach. She had to be strong. With one last nervous glance, Emerald followed Tessa, and the door creaked open. Marisol faced the man, her breath hitching as he took a slow step toward her. Your friend seems eager to run, he mused, his voice dripping with amusement. But you? I think you enjoy this little dance. She swallowed hard, stepping back instinctively. This dance will end when I want it to. With surprising speed, he closed the distance between them. You're in no position to dictate terms. His breath came hot against her face, and she could see the dagger glisten in his palm. Just then, the sound of something heavy crashing echoed from the cellar, jarring both of them. Marisol seized the moment, her instincts kicking in. What was that? Stay back, the man ordered, spinning on his heel to head toward the noise. Marisol seized the opportunity. She bolted toward the door Tessa had slipped through, adrenaline fueling her as she pushed it open, slipping into the darkness behind her. Marisol, Tessa's voice shot through the dimness. Stay quiet, Marisol hissed, barely keeping her voice steady. The air in the cellar felt damp and cold against her skin. What if he follows? Emerald whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Then we need to move fast, Marisol said, trying to quell her own rising panic. They had to make it out, there was no other option. Footsteps echoed behind them, the man prowling closer, and Marisol's heart raced. The pathway ahead seemed endless, an uncertain abyss of shadows and uncertainty. Which way? Tessa asked. Glancing over her shoulder, Marisol's mind raced, trying to plot their escape. I don't know, let us go left. As they moved further into the darkness, the noise of the storm outside faded, replaced by the sound of their rapid breathing and the pounding of their hearts. There was no turning back now. Just as Marisol thought they might be. Free. A voice cut through the dark. You can't hide forever, they froze, the impending dread squeezing the air from their lungs. Had their escape plan just unraveled? The nightmare was not over yet. The darkness swallowed them whole, and Marisol could barely see her own hands in front of her. The damp earth felt clammy against her skin as she stumbled forward, Tessa's firm grip guiding her deeper into the unknown. Every step echoed ominously in the narrow passage, amplifying their fear. Where is he? Emerald whispered, her voice trembling. It pierced through the stillness, a reminder of the sinister reality closing in around them. He is behind us, Marisol whispered back, her heart pounding like a war drum. He'll find us if we don't keep moving. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the cellar, sharp and scraping, like fingernails on wood. Marisol held her breath, thinking it was just her imagination, the paranoia twisting her mind. But then she heard it again, closer this time, a heavy thud against the stone wall. We need to hide, Tessa urged, glancing around frantically. They rushed behind a stack of crates, pressing their bodies against the cool, rough surface. Marisol peered into the dimness. Shadows danced as flickers of light from somewhere above played over the walls. She could feel her heart racing, thumping in her ears. She squeezed Tessa's hand, silently pleading for strength. The footsteps grew louder, each step a reminder that their time was running out. Where are you, little mice? The man called out, his voice slithering through the dark. You think you can just disappear? Emerald stifled a sob, too loud in the silence. Marisol shot her a look, panic mixing with dread as the man's laughter echoed again. Mocking, chilling. Why do you want us? Marisol finally called out, hoping to buy them a few seconds as she sensed he was closing in. His laughter stopped abruptly. Ah, the brave one speaks. He taunted, his voice close now. You're far too interesting to let go, sweetheart. Your fire, it's quite captivating. She shuddered, the words curling around her like a noose. This wasn't a game to him. They were his prizes. Let us go, Tessa shouted. We haven't done anything wrong. Wrong? He mused, as if considering her words. Do you think any of that matters? It's about power, girl. I'm the one who decides what's done with you. Marisol glanced at Tessa and Emerald, both frozen in fear. She felt a surge of anger rise within her. Look, we could help you. Use our skills, let us go, and we'll make it worth your while. Silence fell heavy and thick. Felt like a risk, but she had to try something. The man was clearly a predator, and she had to seem like something more than just prey. Help? He mused, curiosity creeping into his tone. You think after everything you could be of use to me? That's right, Marisol said, summoning every ounce of confidence she could muster. I know things. I know the world outside this cabin. I can be useful, just give us a chance. Rustling followed, and he stepped closer, just beyond their hiding place. Marisol's heart raced as their eyes met in the dark. Oh, my dear. I'm afraid you underestimate your worth. You might even think you're negotiable. Maybe it's time for you to consider other options, Tessa shouted out defiantly. You don't own us. The man let out a chilling laugh, rattling the foundation of the cellar. Oh, but I do. Your lives are in my hands. You've left me no choice. I can't have you calling the shots, can I? A loud crash came from nearby, another echo of chaos that sliced through Marisol's resolve. Yes, close. Emerald gasped, burying her face in her hands. Move! Marisol gritted her teeth, every instinct screaming for survival. They slipped from behind the crates, their hearts pounding as they darted to the far end of the cellar. But as they reached a wooden door, surprise halted them. The door was ajar, almost beckoning them. Was it their escape or a trap? What do we do? Tessa whispered, dread settling on her shoulders. Only one way to find out, Marisol breathed, courage igniting in her chest. With no time to waste, she pushed the door open, and darkness welcomed them like an old friend. The moment they stepped through, a sense of impending doom loomed over them. Then, behind them, the man's laughter broke free, shaking the very walls of the cellar. What a delightful game of cat and mouse! And just when I thought the night couldn't get any more thrilling, but before he could finish, the door slammed shut. Just then, an icy blast of air swirled around them, sending chills deep into their bones. Did we just escape or open a new nightmare? Marisol breathed, suddenly unsure of what lay ahead. With no other choice, they plunged deeper into the unknown, leaving a chilling question in the dark that haunted their every step. Marisol pressed forward into the abyss, heart racing. The cold air wrapped around her like tendrils, squeezing the breath from her lungs. Each step felt like a dare against fate, a test of her will. Tessa followed closely, her fingers trembling against Marisol's arm, while Emerald trailed behind, fear palpable in her wide eyes. Where are we? Emerald squeaked, her whisper trembling with dread. The darkness swallowed her words, leaving an empty echo that clung to the stone walls. I don't know, Marisol replied, her voice steadier than she felt. But we can't go back. They moved cautiously, each footfall calculated against the eerie silence. Where had they ended up? A damp corridor extended before them, flickering shadows teasing their senses. A cold gust swept through, sending a shiver racing down Marisol's spine. Suddenly, an unsettling noise sliced through the stillness, a faint scraping sound that felt disturbingly familiar. It stopped abruptly, replaced by a low growl that reverberated through the walls. What was that? Tessa gasped, her eyes darting around like startled birds. I don't know, Marisol stammered. Panic threatened to spill out, but she pushed it down. Focus. You have to stay focused. They pressed on through the dark, the corridor narrowing, seeming to constrict around them like a vice. The growling returned, more pronounced now, echoing closer. We have to move, hurry, Marisol whispered, urging them into a faster pace. Just ahead, a sliver of light pierced the darkness, flickering like a distant star. Hope surged within Marisol, a sign, a way out. Over there. She pointed, her voice filled with a renewed urgency. They rushed toward the light, but the air felt heavy, as if the darkness was reaching out to pull them back. The growl morphed into a low, menacing chuckle, reverberating down the corridor. You think you can escape? The man's voice was now booming, mingling with the echo of their rapid footsteps. Marisol's heart plunged. He knows, she gasped. We're too late. As if to punctuate her horror, the ground behind them shook. A grating noise, like stones scraping against stone, filled the corridor. The walls resonated with their panic cracks spiderwebbed through the floor. Sections of ancient masonry began to collapse. Run! She shouted, the urgency in her voice rising like a tide. They sprinted toward the light, adrenaline firing every nerve. With each step, hope flickered and died, replaced with desperation. Bursting through the exit, they stumbled out into an expansive, moonlit room. A cavern opened before them, revealing stalactites that dripped like frozen tears from its ceiling. Where are we? Emerald gasped, eyes wide. I don't know, but we can't stop, Marisol replied, scanning the space for any sign of an escape. Before them stretched an endless landscape of darkness, speckled with patches of eerie luminescence that glowed ominously. Then the laughter echoed again, emerging from the shadows. "You really think you can find freedom?" He stepped into the faint glow, his eyes glinting with sadistic delight. "This is just the beginning." Marisol's heart sank. "What does he want?" She breathed, her voice almost lost. "You'll find out soon enough," he sneered, advancing. "There are worse things ahead than what's behind you." Tessa trembled beside Marisol, hands clenched into fists. "We have to fight back." But the man's presence loomed, dark and suffocating. The growl returned, more threatening now, rising from the shadows where it had hidden. Marisol felt a chill skate down her spine. "Go!" she shouted, pushing Tessa and Emerald toward a narrow crevice on the far side of the cavern. "We can't let him catch us." Just as they turned to flee, the growl erupted into a frenzied roar, shaking the very stalactites hanging above them. Marisol's heart raced, fear ensconcing her mind. "Go faster. I can't hold him off for long," she screamed. Adrenaline and terror fueled her push forward. But as they sprinted deeper into the cavern, the walls twisted and changed, cutting them off from any option but to go deeper into the dark. "Marisol!" Tessa cried out, fear crackling in her voice. The piercing laugh of that man followed them, a harsh edge on every syllable. "Run all you want. You can't escape destiny." Just ahead, a shifting shadow loomed, pulsating with an otherworldly energy, and Marisol's heart lurched at the realization the real nightmare was just beginning. What had they unleashed? The world around them seemed to conspire against their escape, and unknown horrors awaited just beyond the darkness. The cavern stretched endlessly around them, shadows whispering secrets as they pressed deeper into the unknown. Marisol's mind raced, her heart pounding in a frantic rhythm. They had to find a way out, but now the air was thick with tension, and the darkness loomed heavier than ever. "Keep moving, don't look back," Marisol urged, her voice taut with urgency. They had escaped the man for now, but each outburst of laughter echoed behind them, a sinister reminder that the predator was still hot on their trail. She could feel it, the chilling presence lurking just out of sight, like a phantom waiting to strike. Emerald gasped, fear glazing her eyes. "Where are we going?" "Anywhere but here," Tessa shouted, determination flaring in her voice. "Keep going. We need to find a way out of this maze." They rushed into an archway that opened before them, revealing an expansive stone chamber filled with strange glowing fungi. The bioluminescence painted their faces in eerie hues, flickering in synchronization with their racing hearts. It was beautiful and terrifying. "Look!" Emerald pointed. At the far end of the chamber stood an ancient door, half buried in vines and moss. "We have to get to that door." But as they sprinted towards it, the growling returned, cutting through the air like a serrated knife. The man's voice slithered around them, echoing from the shadows. "You think you can escape me? This is the end of the game for all of you." Marisol's pulse thundered in her ears. Desperation ignited within her. They had to reach that door. "Run!" she screamed, pushing them forward. Just as they neared the door, a figure lunged from the shadows. It was him. The man's face twisted in malevolence, a maddening grin painted on his lips. "Trapped like rats," he hissed, and in that instant he threw something toward them. A flash of light exploded around them, disorienting Marisol as she staggered back. It was too bright, blinding. Fear washed over her, but it quickly transformed into rage. They wouldn't be afraid anymore. "Let us show him what we're made of," Tessa roared, finding her voice amidst the chaos. Marisol felt that fierce spirit ignite a fire inside herself as well. Emerald yanked the door wide open, and they dashed through before the man could close the gap. On the other side, they stumbled into another corridor, this one dimmed and lined with ancient stone, but the air felt more alive, filled with hope. "We're getting out of here," the man's voice shrieked behind them, a howl of frustration and anger. "You can't escape." Marisol's chest heaved with exhilaration as they raced through the dark passage, each step silencing the fury of the storm outside. She felt the air shift, felt that shift of power they had longed for in each moment of despair. Freedom was so close now. Bursting out into the open, they emerged onto a narrow cliff overlooking a crashing sea. The storm raged fiercely offshore, waves crashing against jagged rocks below. The sky roared and glittered with jagged flashes of lightning, illuminating a path of escape. Emerald gasped, the weight of dread pulling at her. What now? He'll find us out here. Marisol whipped around, confidence surging anew. We fight. We turn and face him now. United. As the man stumbled from the shadows, he looked furious. Wild hair whipping in the wind, eyes aflame with rage. You think you can defeat me? You're nothing. Marisol stepped forward, fists clenched, heart racing. We're not nothing. We are together. And together we are unstoppable. Stand tall. Fight with everything you have. Tessa shouted, her voice powerful, echoing against the storm. Emerald joined their side, fire igniting in her eyes. You're wrong. You're weaker than us. The man faltered, taken aback by their unity, just for a flicker of a fleeting moment. Seizing the moment, Marisol charged forward, adrenaline firing every nerve in her body. Let us show him. They surged together, a wall of defiance. The man reeled back, fury flooding his face. But together they were stronger. They pushed forward, a force against his chaos. Tessa lunged with a swing of a makeshift weapon, a rock, and connected with the man's sneer, stunning him. Now, for freedom, Marisol cried, swinging blows of courage. Emerald took her place, striking with renewed resilience while Tessa kept pushing them forward, urging them on. The tides of power had shifted. With one final roar of defiance, they wrapped him in a force of their shared determination and cast him away from the cliff's edge. His furious cries, swallowed by the storm's silence, enveloped them in that moment, the wind whipping at their backs, rain pouring down. They stepped back, catching their breath as they watched the shadows that once terrorized them slip away into the abyss. Emerald turned to Marisol and Tessa, triumph flooding her face. We did it. We really did it. Marisol laughed, tears mingling with rain as relief flooded over her. Together we fought. Together we survived. And as they stood there, bound by courage, staring out at the vast horizon they had won, it was a reminder that friendship and bravery can conquer even the darkest of nights. The storm began to clear, revealing stars shining down, a promise of new beginnings. Let us go home, Marisol said, the weight of their danger finally lifting. With hands clasped, they turned toward the path leading away from the night and into the dawn waiting just beyond the darkness. They walked on together, leaving behind the shadows of fear and stepping boldly into the light of tomorrow. If you loved this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on more exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and support the channel. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What did you think of this ending? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this story wraps up. Your support means everything. Let us keep this incredible adventure going together.